front page of the Georgia Straight today is the activist plot how to block new pipelines in British Columbia. It's a story about a gentleman that went to the situation in New Brunswick, Rexton, New Brunswick, to learn how to put these protests together. So joining us, Bob Zimmer is a Conservative MP for Prince George, Peace River. What did you think when you saw that headline?
Yeah, Pat, I wasn't real happy about that. I guess from a government perspective, we see certainly legitimate people that are concerned about issues with pipelines and I'd say issues that we are trying to address. And then we see protesters like this that make it their job. We call them professional protesters that do their best to try and stop projects.
He wasn't alone. 9 other people went him. That's 5,000 kilometers. Somebody's paying for this. They've got some money behind them.
Right.
I mean, have we entered a new phase, do you think, in terms of this environmental pushback?
Well, we've seen for a number of months now that we see some foreign money coming in to help these professional protesters up their game, and they're trying to stop projects in British Columbia and elsewhere in the country. And we don't think it's a great thing that foreign money is basically influencing our economy, and we think it should be stopped.
Okay, we think it should be stopped. What should authorities do? And that includes the police. I mean, if this becomes a much more virulent situation, should they step on it early? Or are we going to see what we've seen in the past in terms of the police watch what's going on, assess the situation, yada, yada, yada?
Mm-hmm. What we saw today, I think even Sun News reported that there was a third person arrested from some of the protests this summer, some of the activism on the East Coast. So we're seeing some action by the RCMP to crack down on some of these criminals that are actually straight up criminals that are breaking the law and not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I think as parliamentarian, our RCMP should, if they're breaking the law, they should be prosecuted as such.
Okay, but why not come down on them a little bit earlier before they do things like blow up pipelines? Because as soon as they blow up a pipeline, of course, then they're going to say, oh, look at the environmental impact of what we just did.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think we need to have our forces on the front end of this and make sure that you know, the legitimate, again, protests and concerns that they're allowed to occur. But as soon as you start crossing a line into violence and accosting people, I think that needs to be cracked down immediately.
Bob, you've got your finger on the pulse. How do the public feel about this? I mean, this runs on the front page of the Georgia Straight. It's got the attention of people in British Columbia. Which side are they coming down on?
I think, you know, I'm from northeastern British Columbia. I've worked on pipelines myself. Oil and gas is what we do in forestry from my riding. So we grew up around this, and we have some people that I would say, again, that are legitimately concerned about different issues. And again, we're trying to address those. But the people, the rank and file that go to work every day, work in the oil and gas sector, are just getting, they're upset that they're being allowed, I guess, to protest with impunity, it appears. But again, today we've seen some more arrests, so I think some of those concerns are abated by that. But I think the majority of Canadians want a law-abiding society, and they're upset with the fact that these folks would come in and break the law in such an overt way, burning police vehicles and harming people and getting away with it. I think that's problematic to most Canadians, and people are getting more and more upset with it.
Yeah, well, okay, you mentioned something without impunity. I mean, has the First Nations community generally become a favored nation?
I don't know if I wouldn't necessarily say that. I would just suggest that you know, some of these protests that we saw, the burning of police vehicles on the East Coast, we watched, and it seemed to be that not enough action was taken soon enough. But again, we're seeing today that action is being taken. Of course, we would like to see the action taken a little bit sooner. We can't let these kind of violent, you know, plain straight up professional protesters and criminals keep doing what they're doing, and it needs to stop.
Okay. Now, Bob, Enbridge and the other pipeline companies, for that matter, in each of these situations are probably following the correct process. It's what's been laid out by the government. So the corporations are doing what they can to address this. Government is doing what they can. How do we improve the messaging? How do we get it out to anybody, including these environmental terrorists, that everybody's working their best and want a unified solution?
Yeah, I think, and that's been our government position all along, is that, you know, our job as government is to provide adequate regulations so that projects can proceed safely in Canada and in British Columbia. That's our job as a government. Yeah, you had a question?
Go ahead. Well, yeah, and I'm wondering, I mean, does the media play a role? I mean, we're talking to you about it, but I mean, the Georgia Straight, putting it on the front of their paper, does that help or hurt your cause?
I think most Canadians, and again, I'd say the vast majority of Canadians understand that Canada is a nation of resource development. They just want to see that resource developed safely and in an environmentally sound manner that all Canadians can benefit, and that's what we as a government believe also. So I think when they see that projects, you know, like we just saw the Enbridge project go through the Joint Review Panel, we're still making a decision on it. They're getting very, very deep scrutiny on their projects, and rightfully so. I think that people expect that, and I think once that is done, I think it's meeting the majority of Canadians' expectations. I think where it crosses the line is when these protesters start to break the law and they simply go too far, and most Canadians see it that way as well.
Bob, I hope it never gets there, but thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me here.
For Prince George Peace River.